Great and welcome. I am so excited that we have here with us today um, my dear friend and true guide and spiritual mentor in the way of Jesus, Bishop Malkaz Songulashvili, who is the bishop of the Peace Cathedral in the Republic of, in Tbilisi, the Republic of Georgia, and is also the former Archbishop of the Baptist Evangelical Church there in the Republic of Georgia. And as I said, someone who is a great friend and truly a noteworthy Christian figure, both in the East and in the West. And Malkaz, thank you for being with us here today and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Folks will want to know that I'm having this conversation with Malkaz because Malkaz's church, the Peace Cathedral, is one of our congregational partners through the Alliance of Baptists and will be one of the recipients from of Broadway's 2022 Global Pentecost offering. And so we thought it would be a good idea to have a conversation with you, Malkaz, to talk a little bit about the Peace Cathedral, its history, and also your current work. Many people have heard me talk about you, Malkaz, and really my first introduction to you came not through the Alliance of Baptists, one of our denominational partners, but through the radio here in the United States, in an interview you gave back in 2008, just on the heels of your own country's occupation by Russia. And of course, that has been so much in the news with what has taken place in Ukraine, and then your country's own close proximity, both to that conflict and also to Russia. And so I thought it might just be a good idea for you at the outset to explain a little bit about the history of your own tradition, the Evangelical Baptist Church there in the Republic, and what I would call its strong witness of resistance in many ways in a particularly challenging place in the world.
Yeah. Well, the Peace Cathedral in the Republic of Georgia was established as the very first Baptist church, not only in Tbilisi and Georgia, but in the Russian Empire, when Georgia was a part of Russian Empire. It was established in 1867, and since that time has been a sort of mother church for many Baptist churches in the Russian Empire first and then the Soviet Union. Its history from the very beginning is full of bold stands in support of oppressed minorities, marginalized communities, and it frequently has been endangered for its activism, whether it was under the Tsars, under Soviets, under the religious nationalists, and now under the independent Georgia, which is free from Soviet Union, but it is still dealing with some results of colonial and non-colonial, neo-colonial past. Peace Cathedral, for the time being, is engaged into a project which fully reflects its ethos and its tradition. This is what we have learned throughout more than 150 years of our existence in Georgia. Whenever we come across of ugliness, we try to confront the ugliness with something that is beautiful. So when we saw in last 10 years, rise of Islamophobia, homophobia, and anti-Semitism, we decided to confront it with a beautiful project. And for the time being, as a reaction to the rise of various phobias in this country, the Peace Cathedral is constructing a mosque and a synagogue under its roof. It is going to be a spiritual home for Abrahamic faith, including Sunni, Shia, and Sufi Muslim, and also it is going to be home for Jews in this country of Georgia, who have been experiencing oppression and under the rise of anti-Semitism. Our church has always been engaged in all sorts of relief works, and it is no surprise that during this war, Ukrainian war, Russian war against Ukraine, we are also fully engaged into the relief work for Ukrainian refugees that have come to Georgia, and also we are trying to help Ukrainians in Kiev, and very soon, in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be going to Ukraine to provide some help to the people that are struggling there.
Mm. Malkaz, you talk a little bit about the history of your church and denominational body, the history of the evangelical church there in the Republic. And I have read your history, the book you wrote. I wish I had a copy with me here at the office, but it's quite a tome, and
Yes.
I have read it, and it was really truly a great gift to me, because I realized that you have come out of a long history of, as I said earlier, witness and resistance. Talk a little bit more in depth about the history of your tradition, both under the czars on into the Soviet era and now.
The church came into being as a result of theological dialogue that was going, and disputations that was going on in Tbilisi, Georgia. And from the very, very beginning, the church was to decide what sort of identity it wanted to acquire. Finally, the decision was made that on the one hand, they wanted to adopt principles of European radical reformation in Baptist tradition, but at the same time, they did not want to part with their Orthodox legacy. So this is why in our tradition, our forerunners and predecessors tried to bring together a sort of fusion of Protestant Baptist spirituality with Orthodox spirituality. When it comes to the principles of freedom and equality, we are distinctly Baptists. But when it comes to aesthetics, liturgy, understanding of beauty in liturgy, we are definitely Orthodox. And I come from the Orthodox background. My ancestors used to be Orthodox priests, and I'm still using some of their prayer books. So we are the combination of these two. Sometimes we are not seen by Orthodox as being Orthodox, and quite often we are not seen Baptist by Baptist. But that was our decision to address the culture where we work and where we belong to. And we are using the cultural, religious, and ritualistic understandings and traditions in order to communicate the message of the gospel, which is about freedom, which is about, from our perspective, about equality, which is about embracing and inclusion rather than exclusion. And because of that, the church has suffered immensely, both by other religions, as a majority religions, Orthodoxy, and also from Baptists, who we are not very keen to accept this sort of religiosity, spirituality that would bring together these two traditions. Even though we suffered a lot because of our understanding of being a church, we have no regrets, because we found it to be the best way to be a part of the culture and part of the tradition, yet to be critical of this culture and tradition from inside out.
Yeah, I often joke, Malkaz, that when we talk about our Baptist friend in Georgia, someone who looks like you doesn't necessarily immediately come to mind here in America. And so I appreciate that witness that you have bringing the aesthetic beauty of the Orthodox tradition and much of its language and theological understanding, along with these principles of more democratic ideals, which grew up alongside the Baptist Church in the West. Your church and your country sit at the nexus of East and West, really quite literally. And you know, as I said earlier, my first introduction to you was from your experience, which took place in the occupation of your own country. And because this is so much in the news now with what is taking place in Ukraine, I think it's especially timely for us to hear again some of your own experience of your own occupation. You have literally, your people know what this is like, and I wish you would share a little bit about that.
The war against Ukraine has been particularly traumatic for us as Georgians, because it has somehow reopened the wounds from the war with Russia in 2008 that have not been healed yet. So perhaps Georgians are best equipped to understand the pain and suffering Ukrainians have been through. Some weeks ago, when the war broke out against Ukraine, Obama was saying that I can't believe that Putin is the same man I knew. But we as Georgians have known through and through, this is the same person who was responsible for killing 25% of population of Chechnya. But nobody wanted to react or act upon it, because Chechens were religious and ethnic minority in Russia. They had been Muslims, and their reputation was tarnished by Russian propaganda. And then there was war against Georgia, and again, Georgia is too tiny country to upset Russia because of that, and most of the Western nations turned blind eye to the suffering of Georgia. And we always knew that Putin and Russia would not stop there, neither in Chechnya nor in Georgia. And then there was 2014, when Russians attacked Ukraine and took Crimea, annexed Crimea, which had been a part of Ukraine. And again, the West was not ready to defend rights of Ukrainians, of a sovereign nation that was attacked and abused by Russians. And we knew, and Ukrainians also knew, since 2014, that there would be another war. And surely enough, this year we saw another war, which is unprecedented in comparison with other wars, either in Georgia or Chechnya or Ukraine, because the scale of the war is immense. Originally, it's seemingly Russians thought that they would finish with Ukraine within 95 hours. But it proved quite impossible, and Ukrainians have demonstrated incredible resilience and incredible commitment to freedom and independence of their country. And it seems to us in Georgia that the future and fate of post-Soviet countries, European countries, and perhaps even the world depends what is going to happen in Ukraine. And something that I see very positive, now there is a better understanding of the evil that is being afflicted to Ukrainian people. There is a greater solidarity to Ukrainian people now than it was in 2014, or it was in 2008, or in 1999, that Russians attacked Chechnya. And we are also delighted to see that Ukrainian refugees, millions of them, have been embraced by European and other countries and given support and encouragement and consolation in their lands. And this is something very new, both for Europe and other countries. Obviously, I often hear from my Muslim friends from the Middle East that Muslims were not treated the same way when there was a trouble in Iraq or in Syria. And regretfully, I have to agree with their point, but at least now we are learning these skills to embrace people who are suffering. And once we have learned these skills, perhaps we can use these skills to embrace others as well. And even though this is a tragic experience for all of us, the war in Georgia continued for a few months, but now the war in Ukraine may continue more than a few months. It may go years. We don't know. Nobody really knows. But something that makes us very optimistic is that when the war in Ukraine is over, when it is finished, we as human civilization can go into soul searching, deep looking down into our souls and finding out where we made mistakes, mm-hmm. that made it possible to create another tyrant of Hitler's caliber in the heart of Europe. And I think the world will never be the same after the war in Ukraine is over.
You know, Malka, as I remember back to that 2008 interview and you telling a story about a dream or a vision. I should have asked you if you remember this before we came online, but you had a dream or a vision
yes.
about Mr. Putin.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you would tell that story and then reflect on it. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes, indeed. It was a very memorable experience in my life. When we spoke in 2008, I was in the UK working on my dissertation, spending time in Oxford, and then war broke out, and the first instinct was that I had to come back to Georgia. I had to be with my people. And then I had the terrible thought that if I go to Georgia, what I'm bringing to my people, can I tell them not to be afraid when I myself am afraid? Can I say that things will be sorted out soon when I did not believe that it would be sorted out soon? And how could I encourage people and the entire nation who were devastated by the feeling of helplessness? What can you do? We are a small country, tiny country on the Black Sea, and you are invaded by the largest country in the world. And in my agony, I had this vision. I'm not that sort of person that I'm looking for visions and, dreams, etc. But I was seeing in front of me the tyrant, who was tyrant then and who is tyrant now. And I was looking into his eyes and telling him, do not be afraid. Me telling him, do not be afraid, when I was afraid of him. And the more time I said to him, do not be afraid, he shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. And eventually I was able to throw my arms and embrace him and keep telling him, do not be afraid. So I think that was a sort of projection of humanity, like it is related on the first pages of the book of Genesis, that we are created in the image of God and therefore we are bearing each other's image. So Putin belongs to humanity as we belong to the humanity. And therefore this non-dualistic understanding of the world can eventually help us to seek forgiveness and reconciliation. And I think that was the lesson I learned then during the war and never forgotten, that we should not be looking at the world as black and white, because there is a lot of black in our hearts, as well there is some white in the hearts of enemies and tyrants. And therefore, even though it is inconceivable to think this way, I've been praying for Putin, especially since the war broke out, that his human soul comes back to him, because he's a bearer of image of God, like all of us are. He's gone astray, that is true, and he has committed a lot of atrocities and crimes for which he has to be made responsible. Mm-hmm. But we need to see him as a fellow human being. And this is what we are, entire creation. And something that, in addition of these understandings that I gained through this vision, now I am looking at the war in Ukraine, and I'm not concerned about human beings only. Ukrainians and Russians who are losing thousands, about 30,000 soldiers have already been killed, Russian soldiers being killed. They've got mothers and fathers and families, etc. So the human tragedy on either side is incredible. But this is not all, because now I'm concerned not only about humans, Russians and Ukrainians, but I'm also concerned on the creation. What the war is doing to the creation, forests being burned, fields have been devastated, and as you know better than many other people, Ukraine has been a bread basket, not only for the region, but the entire world. And North Africa is going to suffer because of the war in Ukraine, because farmers are not able to cultivate the land. And we see the forests being destroyed, the wildlife has been destroyed, and animals have been killed, birds have been killed. At Beteli Center in Tbilisi, we are receiving refugees, and along with refugees, we are receiving refugee animals, four-legged animals, dogs and cats and others. So this war, this devastating war, man-made disaster, is a threat not only to our fellow human beings, but all the members of the creation. And I think this is something that I am learning as I'm listening to the people from Ukraine, and I'm regularly speaking to my friends who live in Ukraine and receiving hearing their concerns and fears and excitements when some hope arrives. So that war is teaching me that we are so intricately related to each other that we need to learn how to relate and how to make sure that it never happens again.
You know, Malkas, true to form, you are always speaking as an advocate and serving as a place of refuge for all and all of creation, all of humanity, and seeing the humanity in all. That is what first drew me to you, and is so special about our friendship, and why I believe in your witness and ministry so very much. And I just thank you for that. You speak of going to Ukraine. Can you tell me what you are planning to do there while you visit the country?
There are two main things that I intend to do. I would like to visit my colleagues there, bishops and clergy from Orthodox Church and other churches, to show my solidarity with their suffering. And also, I would like to take a close look what we can do, especially in two devastated towns, which is Bucha and Irpin. And these two towns close to Kiev have been a sort of site of mass massacres. And every day they are finding bodies of civilians that have been shot in back by Russian troops Some of them had been tortured. Children have been raped and maimed. So a lot of atrocities have been committed there. So what we are trying to do is to go there to Irpen and Bucha and try to build kindergartens as a sign of hope for children and elderly and everybody there in cooperation with other people. So we will be, once we have visited the place and have identified the needs and the places, etc., we will start raising funds to build kindergartens in these war-affected places. And also something that we like to do, we very much like to do, it's just a dream. I don't know whether we are able to flesh it out. In Georgia, presently in Tbilisi, we have got about 30,000 Ukrainians and about 50,000 Russians, both refugees. The Ukrainians running for their lives because of Russian invasion, and Russians are fleeing Russia out of fear of their own leader. So both groups are vulnerable, and something that we would like to do something for these groups that are divided, hugely divided, emotionally and otherwise, to foster reconciliation, and possibly by having a summer camp for Russian children, Russian refugee children from Russia, and Ukrainian refugee children from Ukraine, and try to find a common ground if we can work together. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I understand that the pain is too raw now, but at least we would like to do something along these veins.
I know that the cathedral has been serving as a site of some respite, hospitality. I don't know what the right word is for some of these refugees who are coming in, and I know that stresses your already limited resources, both financially and also emotionally. Would you talk a little bit about some of the things you've already been doing for that refugee community? And I'm imagining these are mostly at least from Ukraine, women and children who are coming to Tbilisi.
Yeah. So these are women and children, and sometimes animals as well, who come to Tbilisi. Sometimes they are using Georgia as a stepping stone to go somewhere else. For instance, if they want to go to Canada or United States or other countries, they come to Georgia to get necessary papers, because most of the embassies until yesterday had been closed down in Ukraine. So they are coming to Georgia, and we are sheltering, giving shelter in our center, which belongs to the church. So they stay there for a few weeks, a few days, and then go to other countries, and then other group is coming. So we are constantly receiving refugees from Ukraine and sending them out. And in the meantime, we are providing, obviously, shelter, accommodation, food, medicine, and legal advice, and whatever is necessary for them while they are under our care. Some of the families are going to stay in the property belonging to the church, and we don't know how long will they stay, but we are trying to accommodate them and also help them to get adjusted to the setting and feeling at home. But some of the refugees are coming and going to other countries. These are the things we have been doing. We have been collecting all sorts of goods that the church members are bringing for the refugees, and we are distributing among refugees, and certain things will be sent over to Ukraine. About 10 tons of clothes and toys will be sent to Ukraine. once we have finished the collecting these items, to be distributed in various parts of the country. We are also raising awareness among the religious groups, and we are regularly having prayer vigils for Ukraine every Friday, and we are inviting religious leaders. On the 3rd of April, we had a rather large gathering, large vigil in support of Ukraine. We invited all the diplomats, all the dignitaries in Georgia, and we had a service vigil in English. Ukrainian ambassador spoke at it. The ambassador of Vatican delivered a homily, and other bishops and clergy and leaders from Muslim and Yazidi community also participated in the service. And we gave support to all the human rights organizations who are working in support of Ukrainians, as well as embassies and diplomats accredited in Georgia. So these are the religious dimension of the work, a part of relief work we are doing. But we are also being engaged in developing 2 different documents, which we'll be eventually sharing with you. One document is ecumenical in its nature. It's meant for Christians. We will be addressing Christians to secure support for peace in Ukraine. And another is interreligious. In another document, we'll be addressing all religious leaders, Muslims, Jews, and others, to grant support to Ukraine, especially in its struggle for peace and reconciliation. So these are the sorts of things we are doing. We are helping real people. We are also organizing the religious and vigils and prayers for them. And we are also providing this intellectual support that is necessary to foster peace in the region.
Oh, that's so good, Malkaz, and no one could do that better than you. I just know that your faithfulness, all of the friendships you have built worldwide are of real use in this moment. I'm wondering, that might be a good place for us to stop with the question of kind of maybe a diplomatic or a political question regarding we in the United States. I know that the Republic of Georgia's President Songulashvili, I hope I got that right.
Yes, you do, yes.
Was here in the United States just a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, we recognize that Putin continues to have designs on not only Ukraine, but all of many portions of the former Soviet Union, which of course includes the Republic of Georgia. And so, you know, we recognize the tenseness in which you perpetually live as a people, and you've talked about that trauma. I wish you might, if you were to say anything to we who are in the West, and particularly to we in the United States, to us in the United States, what would you say to us right now about our responsibilities at this moment?
Well, I think it is very important to wake up and confront evil and use all necessary means to do it. And I think this is the only way not only stop Russians to invade Ukraine and then annex Georgia, Moldova, and later on Poland or Baltic republics or other countries, but in order to restore moral high grounds. So criminal activities and crime should not go unpunished. Of course, we are, as Christians, we are standing for compassion and forgiveness. But on the other hand, we need to create a fairer society, fairer world. And very often, Russians have been used various excuses to justify war against Ukraine. They would say, yes, we are invading Ukraine, but see what Americans did in Iraq, what others did, Europeans did somewhere in Afghanistan, elsewhere. So that is telling to me that we have lost moral high grounds, and we need to rebuild it so that we, all of us, work together for fairer world, where justice will be fostered, where religious liberty will be respected, where human rights will be respected, rights of creation will be respected, and also where the reconciliation and peace will be fostered. And I think capitalist greed for money should not blind us to see where justice is. And it has been the case for many years now. And now it is a chance both for the United States and the rest of the world to see the reality and decide that we might need to lose certain money in order to save human lives and in order to save human dignity, in order to safeguard freedom for a sovereign nation.
Malkas, wake up and be not afraid. I love you so much. Give thanks for this time. For those who are remaining on, it's about 11:30, nearly midnight your time now. So we will let you go, Malkas. The Peace Cathedral will be one of the beneficiaries of our June 5th day of Pentecost here in the West. In the East, it's a different date. Y'all are on the 12th, so a week later. But on the 5th of June, Malkas's Peace Cathedral will be one of the recipients of our global missions offering. And Malkas, I just give so much thanks for you, for our abiding friendship and all that you do. And we continue to be in awe and also in prayer for the cathedral and all of the people in Tbilisi and the Republic of Georgia. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you, my brother. And this is my chance and opportunity to tell you how grateful we are, not only for the resources that you have been raising for us for various projects, for the poor and needy in Georgia, in Gori region, for interfaith and ecumenical relations, for supporting Sideline, but also something that I personally appreciate most is friendship, both with you and the Broadway Baptist Church. Whatever happens in our region, and we have been constantly challenged by various crises, I know that whatever happens, I can always count on Broadway Baptist Church, and I always can count on you, Ryan, and brothers and sisters in your community. This is something I'm immensely grateful to you, not only to you, but to God for having such a beautiful friendship established since the war in Georgia in 2008.
God bless you, friend. Thank you for those kind words. Always a benediction to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deep peace.
Peace.